everyone. Welcome back to the Uplift My Life Today podcast channel. For you who are new here, my name is Astuti Marto Sudirjo. I am a subconscious mind reprogrammer, the host of this podcast, and the holder of the Uplift My Life Today transformational space. Welcome to the Love Wins series. Here, I have the honor of sitting down with courageous freedom fighters from all over the world to discuss their incredible journeys of choosing love against all odds. These remarkable individuals have unique soul paths and face life challenges that many of us can deeply resonate with. My hope is that their profound wisdom will inspire each of us to embrace living with an open heart and to choose love freely every single day. So please grab your comforting beverage and let's begin this journey together. My guest today is a remarkable individual, Ali Reza Yawari. At 25 years of age, Ali has been separated from his family for a decade. Forced to flee Afghanistan at 15, he spent years alone in an Indonesian detention center as a first part of his 10-year stay in Indonesia to date. To this date, his citizenship status remained unresolved. This Love Win episode highlights Ali's journey from the trauma of forced displacement to advocating for youth refugees. Ali, together with his colleague Muna Barud, created or co-founded the Emplace Youth Initiative in 2023. Emplace has provided youth refugee with a safe place and opportunities for growth, healing, and connection, enabling them to thrive despite their very difficult circumstances. Within it, they run many activities to improve their resilience, leadership skills, and capabilities to create changes in their own lives and in their communities. Ali and I connected for the first time in 2021 when he, together with his colleagues, was preparing the youth mentorship program for refugee youth in Indonesia. I was invited as one of the facilitators, which I humbly accepted. And together with my partner, Ari Yuda Laksmana, we built and ran the emotional resilience track using coaching and subconscious mind reprogramming. I am incredibly proud of the transformative work that Ali, along with his colleagues, are doing in their community and also beyond. And I am eagerly anticipating our conversation on resilience, compassion, and forgiveness. Welcome, Ali, and thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for introducing very beautifully me and Emplace Youth Initiative.
Yes, I cannot say enough to people about you, but now I don't have to because you're going to tell yourself your story and also Emplace in this recording. Okay, Ali, are we ready?
Yes.
Perfect.
Ready and excited.
Ready and excited. Okay, so the first question I have for you, Ali. Well, first of all, I'd like to mention Ali is also a writer, a beautiful writer, and he has a book which is a collection of poem and proses called Lost in the Calm. He expresses beautifully his experiences and observations, I would say, about everything, him and everything else that is happening in his life. So this question, Ali, should not be very difficult for you. But if you were to publish an autobiography today, what would be its title?
Wow. You said it's not going to be difficult. And actually, for I don't know, but I have some very good writer friends, and some emerging writers, and some people who want to start writing. One of the things that we always discuss is about the title of the books.
Yes.
And it's a very difficult thing for people who write
Yeah.
or who want to write. So some people have come to this decision with them that, oh, the title of the book is going to be this from the start and the middle of writing, or sometimes at the
It
very
changed.
end of the writing. Yeah. So for my first book, it came at the very end of the writing. So
Right.
the title, the name will come with it. I'm actually writing at the good stages of writing my autobiography.
Ah, you
So
are. Okay.
there is
You
no
don't have a
name,
title
there's no
yet.
title yet. Yeah. Perhaps it's going to come at the end again. But I'm sure something within the stories will find itself in a place of title of the book.
Okay.
Something very meaningful, just like
Some,
Lost in the Com.
right. Okay. I will say to be decided because
Yes,
there's
or
a
maybe
real
blank.
autobiography in the making.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, if you are a plant, a flower, or an animal, what would you be?
I really love uh, when I see two animals.
Right.
One is the wolf, one is the jackal.
Ah,
Many
cool.
people don't like jackal,
Yes.
but I like some part
Intriguing.
of it. Yeah. um, it's for some characteristics that those animals have. And one of
Okay.
them is the patience. Um,
A very good
yeah.
one. So, Ali, I cannot imagine being away from my family for as long as you have. So, would you take us on your journey? What happened until you get to Indonesia?
Um, yeah. So a little bit of context for those listeners that they don't know much about people coming from the origin and origins people like me came
Yeah,
from, and a little bit of context for people who don't know much about forced displacement.
yeah.
So there are countries in the world that are not safe, and there is ongoing war, civil war, discrimination, persecution, genocide, and a lot of incidents by which people will find it difficult to live in that place anymore. And
Hmm.
they are forced to run
Hmm.
to a safety. Afghanistan, where I am from, is one of them. It might be a very familiar name for the ears of many people from the
Hmm.
news. We have heard throughout the decades of war in Afghanistan. Um, and that is the main reason for me as well. So Afghanistan is not safe for most of the people who are being persecuted by specific reasons,
Hmm.
and they are Hazaras. Uh, Hazaras originally are from Afghanistan, but are very much spread out around the world because of the ongoing persecution and genocide since decades ago.
Hmm.
And it has been going on and happening in different regimes
Hmm.
and different kingdoms. And it's still going on under the Taliban regime rule.
Hmm.
So I'm from the ethnicity of Hazara, and I found it just like thousands, millions of other Hazaras in my country. I found it unsafe, and that forced me to flee and separate from my family at a young age. There are also millions of other refugees around the world from different countries. I can name Myanmar, the Rohingya, Somalia, Sudan, um, many other countries that people flee for the same reasons that they don't feel safe in their countries. And they go to seek asylum and safety to different countries through different paths and journeys. For me, it happened to come through India, Malaysia, and end up to Indonesia as an asylum seeker, where I had to find my way out to a safety, where Indonesia was not the final destination, but it is where I got stuck. And I have been living in Indonesia for the past decade in different circumstances and in different situations. Part of it that you mentioned at the beginning of the introduction was detention. So detention centers are places where asylum seekers and refugees are being kept for uncertain amount of time in a very difficult situation, as equal as to prison. And people in detention center do not possess any human rights to practice. Mainly is the right to freedom or the right to get out of detention for any specific purpose even. It's a little bit of context, but getting back to your question, which I forgot, is being a forcibly displaced person from a minority, so-called, of a country that cannot protect their citizen, but on the other hand, persecute them. So people find it very difficult to make it reasonable for them in such a vast world, find a very little space of safe and safety to continue living. And it has become very difficult for me time by time, and I'm sure for many other people as well, where this is not resolved for their status, and also as when it comes to the identity of refugee, and it's not progressing. Indonesia itself as a country is accepting, because of the international law, the asylum seekers to be registered with the UNHCR, standing for United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, to be registered and stay temporarily as means of transit country. So for the time there is a solution for asylum seekers and refugees, Indonesia is hosting us.
But it has no interest to integrate you.
Not at all. I'm coming to
Right.
that part.
Right.
It's a very good thing that Indonesia is open to accepting for a temporary time the asylum seekers and refugees. This is good. This is very good. It's a very generous act of the government. Now we talk about regulation, law, and these things. We later on come to the people,
Yes.
So this is a very good practice. On the other hand, because Indonesia is not a signatory to the Refugee Convention, they are not in position to let refugees and asylum seekers to integrate in the country.
Right.
Which means there are laws prohibiting the country not to allow refugees integrate, and the purpose of longer stay in Indonesia. So there is no possibility for refugees and asylum seekers to become citizen of this country or permanent resident of this country, or out of the context of refugee, live in this country for a longer period. But we don't also have to forget that when we say this is a temporary stay, this
It's a
temporary
long.
stay is not really a temporary stay.
No.
It
Yeah.
is already long. For
Yeah.
someone like me, it has become 10 years, getting into 11 years now that we are talking. There are people who have stayed in the country 12 years, 15 years, and
Wow.
I know a family for 21 years living in Indonesia as refugees. And there has not been a solution yet for them. The solution, so-called, is a term by law, policymakers, governments, thinking that this is a problem. Because when we talk about solution, it's considered as problem. And it's not really a good approach when we see it as a problem. Because then finding a solution to problems is going to be a difficult thing to do as well. We know that the situation of the world is not really good at the moment, or it has not been good previously. I think this is the toughest time with the new governments coming in power and making decisions that are not in the favor of welcoming migrants, refugees, asylum seekers to the countries where they are responsible and signatory of the international convention. So there has to be protection for people who are running from war, who are running from persecution, but this is not really being observed and not implemented as well. So Indonesia is now such a place for refugees and asylum seekers. Not many people right now are in detention centers, but the detention centers still exist.
Still there. Okay.
Yeah. But refugees and asylum seekers mainly live in so-called urban setting within the society and the community of Indonesian citizens, but within certain rules and regulations.
Okay. So what can you do and can't you do within this?
We can live, but we cannot do anything, making it simple. And by living, it only means staying alive. Because as refugees, I'm repeatedly going to be saying the term refugee, which I don't like, but it is only for people to understand that who we are talking on behalf of. Otherwise, it's all humans and people. So refugees in Indonesia are not allowed to practice their basic human rights, which is education. They cannot go to formal school or university. Formal school above junior and high school. Refugees cannot get a job or have employment status, so they cannot make money. They're not allowed to. And then there is a big question as to how they survive.
Yes, exactly. That was my next one. How can you sustain yourself for even if beyond a few months, right? Like this, I mean, let alone 20 years, 15 years, 12 years.
Refugees cannot also travel even in between the cities. It's very much tough restrictions. Refugees, of course, because of the documentation that they do not have, cannot travel abroad out of Indonesian border. Refugees, now we come to a little bit of like, okay, what else they cannot do? Refugees cannot get married, even if
I didn't know that.
Even if they are in love with some people, be it Indonesian citizens or other refugees. They can and cannot is, let's break it down.
Yeah.
They can do it if they want to. I mean, nobody is going to stop people from loving each other.
Yeah.
We have a lot of legendary love stories. So people would love to follow. But
yes.
If people want to get married, there are certain situations that come after marriage. People need to legalize their marriage by the law of religion that they practice and by the law of the country that they live in.
Yeah.
The law of religion they practice, okay, that can happen if they go to a masjid, a church, or any other place to
Yeah.
legalize it. But they cannot do it um, in the law of the country, which means if after their marriage there is children, the children are not going to be registered in the country
Yeah.
as with birth certificates and other things.
Yeah.
The only thing that can happen if refugee to refugee get married is UNHCR may have some arrangements only to issue a document that this child exists and is not
Oh my
stateless.
God.
That is also very much of well, I would recommend people to go to some book of law to read and study.
Yeah.
There might be certain things that I may be mistaking on, but this is what I have been reading, experiencing, warned, and heard from the official people. So this is very difficult. People would also consider that if I have children and I cannot send them to kindergarten, send them
Yeah.
to school, that's a huge responsibility. They don't want to take it. So full stop. People cannot get married. And that's what I'm talking about refugees. To Indonesian citizens, that's very much prohibited. People cannot even have a driving license to drive motorcycle, car, or any other vehicle. People cannot possess anything that needs a legal verification of document. For example, people usually give the example of a SIM card.
Yeah.
So to use their mobile phone, that
Yeah.
needs to be registered under your identity and name. So the UNHCR ID card that people possess is not really solving a
An ID.
problem of buying. Yeah, it's not identified as because we cannot buy a SIM card with that. So now imagine what refugees can do in this country and cannot. So of course they can eat, they can sleep, and they can stay alive. But practicing what a human needs to practice, from education to employment, from marriage to possessing property, or even practicing certain things is not possible at all. For some specific people, even it's very difficult to practice their religion, considering where they live, who they live with, what community they live with, and how safe they feel if they want to practice their certain religion or sect of religion. We can talk about all these problems all day long,
Yeah.
but this is a bit of examples and situations how
Do you,
refugees are surviving.
do you know if this is quite common in many places that are temporary space for people to get to the final destination? Or is it specifically for situation in Indonesia?
Um, Unfortunately and very sadly, it is more than Indonesia. So
Oh.
more countries, and specifically in the Southeast Asia, there are countries that have a very similar situation of context, like Indonesia for refugees. A little bit better than Indonesia. I cannot talk about it. People living in those countries will not consider it better.
Yeah.
But there are certainly worse situations in other countries as well. If I can say an example, last week we are now in second week of March. Yeah. So last week we heard and we saw on the news that 41 Uyghur refugees from China are forcibly deported back to China. They are Muslim Chinese who have been deported back to China without their consent after 11 years of
Waiting
detention in Thailand.
in Thailand.
And they were detained like in prison after 11 years, and they were sent back to China, where we are not sure if they can be safe. And I'm saying it, I'm quoting it from the valid source of news, and people can check. So it's not my
Interpretation.
personal interpretation or information. So, and I'm saying that example that, yeah, this happens. this may happen to certain other countries, that a lot of very vulnerable population of stateless people, refugees, asylum seekers live in transit countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, where we live, um, Bangladesh, and many more countries in the region. So it's not a pleasant situation for refugees. Indonesia is hosting around 12,000 refugees, which is not a big number for compared to the population of Indonesia as a country. But this is 12,000 is still the number of people who live here. In countries like Malaysia, the number is way bigger than that. It goes to 100,000
Wow.
plus. And another Thailand, it's more than Indonesia, of course. And if we can touch a little bit on how is that and why is this very long process and so on. So after July 2014, when the Australian government came with the decision and announced that refugees cannot come to country through boat or other means of illegal migration, that has made a lot of collaboration with the Indonesian government to put pressure on the situation of refugees in a way that people are being kept and not allowed to go to Australia. On the other hand, Australia has responsibilities to kind of consider people running from war, running from persecution, to kind of provide alternative pathways if they are closing the border in such a way. But that is also very much of not a good thing we have seen for the past 10 years from Australia. They have not been resettling refugees through legal means by UNHCR through humanitarian visa. It's a very, very, very low number compared to 12,000 refugees in Indonesia. And the most interesting part that is very much revealing of a lot of things, that this is a punishment for refugees who got stuck in Indonesia, is that refugees in Indonesia are at the very bottom of the list of the Australian government for resettlement. So there are refugees from other countries farther, Malaysia, Thailand, and other countries, who are being resettled with higher number, but Indonesia is on the very bottom of the
Is
list.
it is
because
it
of
because Indonesia didn't do enough to get it up, or is it because of something else? Do you know?
Well, when I said people should understand it, is when I said the word punishment is, when you come here, we want to show people that there is no way you can get through. So even through the border or through the ways that are legal.
The formal ways, yeah.
Yeah, for resettlement. So they want to kind of keep refugees in Indonesia as a way of punishment and a lesson for those who are looking at this path to go to Australia or to resettle in Australia. Cannot be very specific more than this, but I'm sure this is very much this is very much true. But anyways, the situation in Indonesia, if people think that when someone is living in a country for a short time, it really has to be short time, at least 1 or 2 years. But if it goes more than that, there
It's
should
not short.
be, there should be ways of integration
Yeah,
where people can feel safe.
yeah.
Putting and keeping people in detention is not safe. Keeping people in uncertainty is not safe. Keeping people without education, without employment, starving, and vulnerable is not safe and is not protection that organizations and countries and governments are responsible for. And that is the reality refugees in Indonesia face.
It is very heartbreaking because as a civilians that doesn't know a lot about the laws, this isn't the way to treat other human beings. It's just like that for me. At the same time, I also commend those who actually could survive this situation. I have never been disconnected from my family beyond the time of COVID. That was the longest.
Yeah.
And it was forced, right? But I live in a safe place. And my life didn't stop because I still have rights to do things. I still can have my thing. I can still get education. So I just want to say that this is inhuman, and it's not a surprise, right? Like, but it is. I just want to say it, and I also, at the same time, Ali, want to understand, if at all you can share this, how do you personally survive 10 years? This is a big question.
It is, and it is 10 years to talk about.
Yes. Can I ask first of all, so your family, are they all spread around the world now?
Yes.
Okay.
And
you will all end up very likely having different nationalities if you all get resettled, yes?
That's true.
That is another weird thing. Again, okay. Sorry, I'm just going to clarify that in my head.
Yeah. 10 years. If any of the refugees from the very first day, they knew that it will be 10 years, it will be 15 years, it will be 21 years. For those very, 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 what is the word? Lucky? I'm not sure if that is a luck to be resettled after 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. I don't find it lucky. It's still very much of adversity waiting 7 years. Even for those people, if they knew they will have to wait for that amount of time, they wouldn't.
I was going to ask, you wouldn't have fled, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, it's very difficult. When you at the start of your question said that 10 years is very much, is too long, and how people survive, the first thing came to my mind, honestly, was like, not all people survive.
Yeah, I can imagine.
A lot of people died, and some people. We're comparing numbers. When we say some, I have to say a lot of people, many people. This is life of people. These people have committed suicide. We talk about committing suicide is a huge thing. We never know the exact reason. But what can that be when people have lost their hope for a life that they were seeking it? They traveled past borders. They came all the way from their country of origin, thousands of kilometers away, to a country where they were very hopeful to find a new life. But they came, and after long time, they ended up their life by themselves through difficulties and emotions and situations they were going. Some of them were my friends. Some of them were people I knew. They came to a point in life that they preferred death over life. And it's very sad and difficult to talk about. It has to be talked about. This is the thing. We always come and share very good stories, forgetting the real things happened. There have been very bad incidents of self-harm, people on the verge of losing their hope, but they survived. People survived with every day waking up and having nothing to do and
Yeah.
blaming life and blaming themselves and blaming destiny, but it still kept going.
Yeah.
There have been people who found little hope and very small things that they could see in their everyday when they were living in the very much of darkness. And among all these people, I think that was me as well.
Mm.
And I have gone through multiple stages of life through seeing what is life, how is life.
Mm.
And at some point, came to understanding that if life would have always been the way we demanded, then it would be very good.
Mm.
Uh, But it hasn't been for me or people like me.
Yeah.
And a lot of unexpected situations came. I would recommend people go and hopefully soon read my next book where I'm very much in detail talking about it. What's happening when people are leaving their home, leaving their home country, leaving their family, leaving their loved ones, leaving the things and the ones they were very much attached to. Just like you said, you couldn't imagine
Mm.
living away from your loved ones for that so long. Nobody would have. But when it comes to certain situations, um, you would see that, wow, uh, this is too much. I cannot do it. But you have to do it for your nature of survival,
Mm.
for the nature of human being going through hardships. And if have purpose that is so much of everything, the love that you have from someone you really care in life,
Mm.
the belief that you have, the faith you may have in certain things, uh, and those all push you to go like, you know what, it's not time to give up.
Mm.
Move on and move on and move on. um i've seen I've seen a brother holding another brother in his hands who has committed suicide.
Oh my God.
And
Okay.
imagine how that would be so difficult for people to live after that. It's so difficult.
Mm.
And the point that they find themselves in the situation is not something they would want to convince themselves, like why it happened and what could I do.
Mm.
This is a very big question for them, for such a parent, for such a brother,
Yeah.
uh, or such a friend. What could I do? Because people are put in a situation that they really cannot do anything. They really cannot have control over their life. And there has been times that we have experienced that we do not have control over our eating, drinking, sleep over, or sorry to say, using bathroom.
It was is that dictated?
It's very much being
Ruled.
imposed
Imposed.
of
Okay.
rules and regulations that has to be certain. And if people do not obey that, my God, you can't imagine of the punishments and things coming to them. But anyways, um, so this has been the situation. When I said people really didn't survive, these are all being pushed down and not really uncovered,
Mm-hmm.
neither by media nor by people working in the sector. Uh, and then at the end of the day, someone as still a refugee with all those risks associated and around uh, will feel responsible to come and talk about it
Mm.
because it's the life of people. And
Mm.
people should know that this has been happening Because at the end of the day, the governments, the news, they will be like, see, this is very much good. People, after living 10 years, are still doing a lot of happy things, which means their life is good. They are not in war anymore. They are not in danger anymore. The thing is, getting back to the point that when the brother is seeing another brother is committing suicide, that would not have been as painful if that person has been killed in war that they
Yeah.
run from.
Yeah.
They could have convinced
Yeah.
themselves that this is war and there was a reason for him to die at such a young age. But now, running all the way and seeking asylum and living in such an adversity of life, and then seeing that, it's not something people would want to convince themselves. That's why. But people talk about the good things. People talk about the things that people have gone through, on the result, on the conclusion, on the achievement, but never about the process, never about the failures, never about what happened to that stage. Yeah, and it doesn't come all this good. People would think that, yeah. So what do they expect? They are refugees. They're coming from a war-shattered country. This is their fate and destiny to live that way. Why do they expect more? What? It's not about that. It's about people getting into such experience of forced displacement have no other choice. Otherwise, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do. They
They
wouldn't
wouldn't
make
choose it.
this
Yeah.
choice. They would, and they really didn't make such a choice of coming to Indonesia. Their only decision was like, I have to save my life. It's what every human being would do. So we don't talk about demands. We don't talk about high expectation of people. We talk about the human being and the human survival and the human rights that people need to live with dignity, with respect, with all the things that let and help and give hope for a person to live and continue living. So it's very difficult to when it comes to laws and policies and regulation and all those things that politicians want to favor some part of the society but not the other, just to like, refugees are not our responsibility. And then talking and seeing and looking at people that way, what can we expect? I talked a lot about the government, about the policy, the politicians. I don't know. At the end of the day, all politicians play safe and play well. And it's like, no, we are refugee friendly. We are very good. And so much appreciate those people with such mindsets. I hope there are more. But I don't think so. So we come to talk about people now. You haven't asked, but I'm going to say it so I can be fair to myself that, I talked about this part. Let's talk about the other part as well. When I said Indonesia government has warmly and very generously allowed refugees, asylum seekers to enter the country and stay under the registration of the UNHCR, this is what I said. And then every part about integration and keeping refugees and so on. Indonesian people are very good, humble, and friendly. The thing is, just like you are an Indonesian, that you don't know much about the rules, regulations, and policies about refugees in Indonesia or any part of the world. I'm sure many people from other countries, they listen to us or they hear the term refugee, or they know about, someone is coming to their country, but not possessing the valid citizenship of that country or a visa. A lot of questions will roam around their mind and they will not have all the answers. And that puts them in a position, what am I going to do? how safe it is, because our minds are so much filled up with news, false information, misinformation, disinformation, of all those things that are not true, but we hear it, we see it, and it's being pictured out in our minds from the time we have started to watch on TV or listen to radio anywhere. So, but when we sit and talk with Indonesian people, uh, this is a different thing. This is a different world. In my first years of detention center, one of the rules, I'm saying it bluntly everywhere, one of the rules they imposed on us was do not make connection with local people. I have seen my friends who had Indonesian friend was punished because of having a connection with Indonesian local.
No.
Because we were detained and we were not allowed to go outside, and a lot of those things. So imagine when it is being imposed in that way, means that people are good to one another, be it Indonesian or non-Indonesian. So they see it and they know it very well that this is a problem, what they are doing. If people know it,
they may want to help.
Life would be easier. They want to help.
They want to help.
They want to make friendship. They want to embrace one another. They want to be close to one another. And that is good. That is how migration succeed throughout the history. Look at it. We can talk about it politically. We can talk about it socially. We can talk about it economically. We can talk about it through every aspect of life and living together. Migration always succeed in true ways and good ways. And that is how asylum seekers and refugees are being strongly labeled as a lot of things that they want to describe refugees. But they don't want refugees introduce themselves, represent themselves, say that this is who I am. And you can't imagine, I have a lot of refugee friends, girls, boys, men, women, that have very good connection with Indonesian people.
I can imagine.
And those connections ended up to a very strong bonding, more than a family, closer than a family. And I have a lot of stories to talk about. And I have many of my friends who resettled and still are in connection with their Indonesian friends that they had back in 5 years or 2 years or 3 years ago. And they keep doing it. And if they have a possibility to make it, to go and meet each other again in that country or back to Indonesia, they would do it because they made a connection. And these connections establish a path to a better life. Be it in the time that that refugee would have that has been put in situation to struggle and deal with hardship, of finding proper food, finding shelter, whatever else that the regulation stopped them of having. On the other side, refugees have brought a lot of good things to those local Indonesians, starting from a happy face and kindness, the diversity they brought, the culture they shared, the food they shared, a lot of good things that they have practiced together, played together, enjoyed together, experienced together. It's countless, and this has to happen. But the barriers that are set by people and power is not letting it happen. But I've seen it happening a lot.
Anyways,
within all this.
It's thank you for sharing that, Ali, because of course I being an Indonesian myself, right? Like I'm connecting to how we are as people, right? Like for thousands of years, we always have all kinds of culture in our lands. This is our natural setting, if you want. Especially in Java, I can speak for sure. in Java, but I think this isn't just Java, knowing the history of Indonesia, all over the country, different islands. We always have exchanges of different tribes going everywhere. So it is in our DNA, collective DNA, to welcome and get, it's not, people of other culture is not scary for us because we are like that. Because we are also the product of this for many, many generations, right? So I'm not surprised that this connection happens with, because it's us, that's who we are. But then, as you mentioned, we are being forbidden to be who we are. Our natural inclination is to get to know the people who are coming and to welcome them, to get to know them at least, right? Like, and to help to welcome them somehow into our community. That's how I grew up. That's how all my ancestors grew up. That's just so core in our being or our beingness. But this policy, rules, regulations that are being imposed right now by whoever who made this, for whatever reason, I don't know. This is basically forbidden, in a way, is blocking us from being human. Is that too far to say?
That's right. I sometimes am speechless for what I have been witnessing and experiencing and seeing. And then the outlook at this is like, where would this go?
Yeah.
Where would this humanity go? And we can see it a lot happening around the world. So it's not only this situation of refugees in Indonesia. We can tell.
Mm-hmm. It's just fine. I mean, it's really difficult to talk because I'm angry at the same time, I'm angry as I'm smiling, angry. I want to cry. This is such a loaded experience. And I'm really, one of the good things that I'm hearing from this is that you are recognizing the nature of the human nature in this is still there. It's just not allowed. We are then punished for being who we are naturally, being of connections, right? And on top of that, it's very difficult for the people outside of the ones that is regulating or imposing the regulations, because naturally we are very curious about people that are different. I mean, you will see this all over Indonesia. Somebody's going to talk to you. If you go somewhere, somebody's going to start talking to you. And not all with bad intention, right? But everybody's curious to other Indonesian as well, not just to people from other countries. So it's really the regulation that the countries, whoever part of the countries that are agreeing on this, is basically saying we forbid anybody who are interacting with each other to be human. Basically, that's how it sounded to me. You cannot connect, period, which is against human nature.
Right. Yeah. Just for, I'm sure this is going to be listened by many people, and I'm a little bit considerate of, let's clarify things so people would not be like, oh, you said this, but this is not, I'm saying this. So now that refugees live in urban setting in the society, when we say, okay, then the answer would be like, so people can go together, nobody is stopping them of making friendship. That's right, that's true. But we need the right place so people can feel connected, can feel safe to connect. When I say that, means that if refugees are allowed to go to university at young age, they will connect and bond with Indonesian, same age with them, same mindset with them, same vibe and type, and with the same purpose with them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you want to talk about like, okay, go to the street and say hi to everyone and make a lot of friendships, that's another thing. I didn't mean talking about that. That can happen. That's happening. That will happen. And with that, that is still, I can come with a lot of examples and such conditions that, oh, that is still would somehow be difficult because of this language barrier or many other things. When we talk about this, is about the safe space where people are allowed to go. People can go to school, university, get a job, they mingle around, they have a purpose to live, and
Build a
they
community.
feel the community, they belong to that community, they make that connection with purpose. That's what we are talking about, the real integration.
Mm-hmm.
But what currently is happening to, I can for sure say that plus 85 of plus 85% of refugees are only keeping themselves in their what we call them, cells, rooms, cubicles, accommodation, or whatever, just to wait until they go to another country while their lifetime is passing here. And that is because of this. They don't feel allowed to integrate. So otherwise, they would so much benefit from everything that this country is offering to them. But it's about that we are talking now. And that is what I felt that I need to say it. So people like, okay, and the very first place when they said that, there's no direct threat to refugees in Indonesia, as in with bullet, bomb, direct persecution from people or other things. We don't talk about them. It is safe. And the first days and the first years, I said 5 years of mine, 7 years of my friends, less or more. And detention center, that is how the regulation or people applying the regulation interpreted safety. They would have put people in detention and prison claiming that this might be safer for them. We don't talk about those kind of interpretations, yeah? We talk about the real integration of people and the way people should be allowed to live in the society when we say that there should be protection. Otherwise, we can go back and talk about, okay, this is Taliban, this is ISIS, this is people who do not feel responsible to provide protection for people now because Taliban is governing Afghanistan. That's why I'm saying. Otherwise, to me, they are not government. To me, they're not responsible. To me, they are wild people who kill other people.
Thank you very much for being part of this conversation. Before we continue, please like this episode, share this episode, and subscribe to this podcast channel right now. Let's continue. What do you see the implication of this into the youth population within the refugee community, Ali? What do you see the implication of these? You're not allowed to integrate. You're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to actualize yourself pretty much, nor connect. Because when you are allowed to connect, then the connection will grow. But there's a limitation to the connection, isn't it?
Definitely. This is, I think, where I can talk a little bit of my activities.
Yes.
What I have done, what I have faced, what I have experienced, what I have then done with a couple of other people. So being a young person and placed in such a situation, from the very early days, I tried and I decided not to be the person sitting and just waiting. But I decided to first sit and look around and observe and try to understand this, read and understand the situation, that what's going on, how is that going to be, who is going to help who if people are in need of help. If I'm in need of help, who is going to help me? Help is not a pleasant word for many people because they would be like, why would you need help when you're all good to do it yourself? No, we are put in situations in life that we need help. We are put in situations in life that we can help and we have to help. So I have been there. And those early days, what I've been looking at were there are people from very diverse backgrounds coming here. People from South Asia, people from Northeast Africa, people from Southeast Asia, people from Afghanistan, people from Pakistan, people from Iran, people from different religions, people of different ages.
Mm.
And when I'm saying this one by one, it's like it's not easy to live at sudden time when someone like me at young age coming from a country like Afghanistan. We are very diverse in Afghanistan. We are not, but we are not exposed to, like, majority 99% is Muslim. So when we say different religions, so there should be people. When I have someone in my surrounding practicing different religion, how am I going to respond to that? And how is that person going to respond to me? The way we live in society, especially in Indonesia, very diverse, very tolerant, right now, has not been the same in detention center.
Mm.
It's very risky, especially those early days. When we talk about race, when we talk about religion, when we talk about these things, these are the stages of preparation to integration, to understanding diversity, to understanding living in such a setting. Nobody was prepared for that. And imagine in a prison, people come from all backgrounds, and there's no supervision, there's no control, there is no observation. There is no, in between the people living in that detention, there is no control. So anything can happen, and many things have happened. So a lot of young people from those times flourished, and they were the people who brought discipline to that situation. And I was surprised. Not the older people, not the adults, not people who come from, I don't know, a better background, not people who came with their families, but the young people, the young people of my age, the young people of my understanding and mindset. And when I'm saying is my, because I was part of them, and I'm not talking about myself because it was not me alone.
Yeah.
Because you asked about young people. So young people, and I talk about specific young people. So because this is going to lead to somewhere. And this was when young people look at other younger people than themselves, they would feel so disappointed, not for themselves, but seeing those other younger people growing up like that. In the detention center that we were living, there were families with their children, and those children, or unaccompanied children as well. So those children at the age of 10, 12, 6, 7, they had nothing to do the whole day. They didn't have playground. They didn't have a toy. They didn't have a pen and paper. And they were getting into habits that were horrible to imagine, because they were put in such a setting of, they were looking at older people, they were fighting. They were looking directly at older people that were gambling. They were looking at older people that would have been very, very horrible things. And children, they see and they directly learn and do. And they use words that were not proper for people to listen, to hear. When we were looking at those children, we were so disappointed that what's happening, what's going on, why nobody is doing something, how long are we going to be here? That's where younger people decided to, like, you know what, let's bring a discipline by setting something to do during the day. And that was about starting a class, passing a knowledge or a skill to a younger one that we had. I always say the example of a very good friend whose name was also Ali. He was a very good artist and very nice paintings he could draw. And he found some pencils and papers, and he started to let others use it, with him encouraging other people, and especially children who are very much fond of drawing. And that space was created and it grew. and it grew and it grew. Uh, and after some time, we saw that, look, this is a better life than some months before. People now have a purpose when they wake up. People find hope now that they wake up. People have a positive activity now that they wake up. And this is happening inside detention center, where you can see around yourself the security guards, where you can feel that heavy atmosphere uh, on the people living there,
Yeah.
and where you can see that this is sometimes getting as wild as a jungle. And this is sometimes because if sometimes it broke out, suddenly a fight breaks out between two people, and we could see that 20 people are hitting one another.
Yeah.
This is real, and this happened. And among them, there were young people who were very vulnerable to such situation. I don't think if it's proper if I talk about the sexual abuses,
Sure.
if I talk about the many misbehavior, the bad actions that people were dragged into, encouraged to,
But they're
and
all
whatever
there,
else.
all this, yeah? Let's just
It
say
all
they're all
happened,
there.
horribly happened, and it's so sad. And we have people living with those traumas until now. People we have. Um, I mean, I'm in contact with few of those people from the detention, and they sometimes talk about it, and some of those things are still with them. Uh, anyways, so when young people are in such situations, I've seen a lot of things, and one of the thing I have seen in mostly younger people is the hope and resilience they maintain. On the other part, and this hope and resilience is coming, I'm saying, from the very most vulnerable position and situation they lived in. And I think these young people are very much powerful and strong and resilient to uphold all those hopes and dreams in them, to keep moving and to keep surviving. We can see a lot of people have been into very dark situations, but then there were other people coming and like, hey, let's do something. Hey, this is happening. Hey, we can do it. Hey, let's not give up. I'm talking about Indonesia and in different cities, of course, different situation. Where I have been, I think, was one of the worst. The very farthest place and detention in Indonesia. And different cities and situations, there were also same things happening in different levels. But what I can say about young people is like they always look for the same group of people who think the same as them, and they look for accomplishing their missions. And the lack of space within all these years has been sensed and felt so much because I've been forcibly traveling and displaced in Indonesia and different detention centers and accommodation. And I've been witnessing and seeing it.
Yeah.
And as you said at the start of your introduction, me and Muna co-founding a space where young people find a purpose, work on their mindset, and shift it into that I can, from I wait to I can. I think this is how we are doing it. But back then that I talked previously that we started with classes in detention center, I can talk very big and bold about that, that we started a learning community. We made a school. It was 5 years. I have now students in the US and in the UK and in Australia. They are first grader of their schools, with being grateful that they have studied English and prepared themselves in detention center with us. That is what we can claim of, and that is what is a relief to me every night I sleep, and to my other fellow refugee teachers and people who put so much effort in it. And now that we are doing a lot of other activities that of course you are very much part of it as our mentor and facilitator of one of the mentorship programs, you can see
Mhm.
how much young refugees are looking for opportunities that they are deprived of
Mhm.
only because of this wrong system that they're living in and waiting and waiting. And there is no support, there is no opportunity, there is no legal framework that they can enter to study and to educate, but they are so thirsty for it. They want it. What
Yeah.
we can do is very little capacity that we can provide, but these young refugees, very talented, very enthusiastic, and very much hopeful and resilient, deserve more than this, and that
Yeah.
they have to get into the world that they are dreaming of.
Yeah. I must say, from a facilitator perspective, I didn't know what I was getting into, obviously, when I come into the mentorship program, but I'm always in awe with the growth of every single mentees that we've had to date, Ali. And I just I'm very grateful that you and your fellow founders of this program actually did it, or initiated or identified. Obviously, you identified it as a need and actually make the efforts to actually set this up. There are days that I was thinking like, oh my God, it's just, 5 out of 12,000, 10,000, I don't know what, but it's better than none, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what I mean, if I could do more, I would, but I'm just in awe. I am just in awe with the hunger. And let's say it was not an easy mentoring program. It was very intense and very demanding. So I just wanted to say, please keep on going. And it makes a huge difference. I'm a witness of this, right? Like I'm a witness of all the beautiful individuals, young people that your program has touched. So I have a private question for you. How are you healing? How do you heal, Ali? With all the things you've witnessed, with all the things that you haven't said here, but I know you experienced, and you were 15, for God's sake, when you got to that detention place, you're 15. How are you healing?
I think it's going to take a lifetime to heal
Mm,
for the situations we have faced. And to that when sometimes it is talked about me personally, I mean, uh, I'm always trying to say that, hey, it was not only me experiencing all this. And when people say, just like you said, I know what you really mean, but again, I was that age. And then there were people with 10 years of age, 8 years of age, and lower or higher. 20 years of age is very difficult as well, 25. Different situations. For people like me who have been facing a lot, the healing process is very difficult. What I can say for sure is that part of the healing that I could sense in myself is that if I'm convincing myself that I'm part of the process of healing and of another person,
mm,
I'm a little bit healing myself. Uh, but in general, I think it's going to take a lifetime to heal from all this, and it is not an easy thing.
mm,
Uh, it's just very difficult. Sometimes, I don't know, I've told you once when we were having a mentoring time, but it happens at my peak time of being very productive and very resilient and very hopeful and very good. Suddenly I feel something and I
mm,
just need to be in my bed for the next 2 or 3 days and I can't
mm,
move and I can't do anything and I can't focus. And when we talk about healing, we have to we really, I really have to know, and I really have to find out all those small details
Mm.
and stories I've gone through, what I have to heal from. So I have to get back to them. I have to understand things deeper. But it's very difficult.
Mm.
And I think this is what I'm going to be dealing with very much deeper, longer, and more intense.
Mm.
But there's a little bit of relief and part of what I can feel, and a little bit of hope that if I'm doing more to giving back, uh, it's just going to help me so much.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that I'm the hero of my life. I have always acknowledged for specific, small and big amount of kindness, amount of support that I have received from my very, very close friends, roommates, uh, uh, mentors, and people around me who have
Mm.
always been there when I needed them. Otherwise, it's not a long journey. So, and of course, part of this is uh, it's every day a lesson, every day an experience, and it's adding up, and many people are part of it. So, um, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be long, but I think it's ongoing thing. That's why we are trying to feel good together
Yeah.
with other younger refugees, with other younger friends that I have,
Yeah.
very good friends, Indonesian friends. I mean, I have. I'm very supportive and very much understanding all this that we talk about,
Mm.
and of course, many other people beyond. Um, yeah, and at some point, I think. I don't know if you want to ask me this question, but before we
Let's
run out
see.
of time, it just came to my mind that I have to talk about it before I forget, if you
Please.
never ask, is that, and I don't think if it's only me, but a lot of people who have seen oppression, who have seen cruelty of life. We don't talk about certain people. It came. Let's talk about my country. It came from Taliban, ISIS, uh, those cruel people, to someone we see around ourselves. That is too much. People are putting another people into situations that it's
Mhm.
not really good. Um, but if I keep that in my heart and I live with that, at some point in my life I was doing it. And I think I'm a little bit getting distance from being that person, which is better. And I think it's very helpful for me that um, I'm not going to be, well, of course, the pain will be there, the scars and the wounds will be
Yeah.
there. But I'm not going to be living with having them in my mind and my heart as that bad picture of the main source of that thing happened anymore. I've let them go away.
Mhm.
And that is giving me uh, a more calm mind. Uh, at the end of the day, it's not about forgiving them.
That
It's
was my
about
next question. What does
what
it
was it?
mean? Yeah. Thank you for answering before the question comes. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's about, I don't know if it's the right word, but it's very difficult to put it into words. It's like I forgive myself for being tough. I know it's not my fault to be put into situations. It's not anyone's fault to be in such a situation of being born as an Afghan Hazara,
Mhm.
nationality to face all these difficulties, or then to be labeled as a status of refugee, or then to be, I don't know, whatever else is coming along that
Yeah.
people are thinking is the reason. But because we keep blaming ourselves for being this person, and if we don't forgive it and let it go,
Mhm.
uh, it's not going to be helpful. I can feel more calm, especially after I decided to write that book that you're holding. I felt more calm to let it go with those words,
Mhm.
to let it go with the forgiveness, to let it go with seeing, no, this happened, but I can live it out.
Yeah.
I can leave it behind. Otherwise, it would keep suffering me
Yeah.
more and more and more.
Yeah.
If I talk about them, it is a different thing. I
Yeah.
talk about a lot of bad experiences. I want to keep talking about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the other hand, part of the healing process that you asked me and you said is what I'm trying to practice it this way.
Yeah. What you said, what is forgiveness, is exactly that. The real forgiveness meaning is that you acknowledge what happened and you accept it, and then you let it go. Forgiveness is not the same as saying what you're doing is okay. It's not that, but exactly what you're doing. This is what happened, and I'm going to let it go. It had happened. It was cruel. It could all this, but that's so you have the right definition and an application of forgiveness, Ali.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yes. So because you were saying earlier, like, I don't know if I said the right word. No, you are saying the
Mm.
right thing. You're talking about the same thing with the right label. So just want to share with you. And I think it takes a lot of strength and maturity, right? Because nobody tells you to do it. Is you realize what are the options here for me, and to choose this. And this is also one of the topics that we brought up in the mentorship program. And of course, it's a loaded topic, forgiveness, but to have the clarity that it is, but it is, as you have experienced it, is very helpful for your healing journey. And as you say, writing or creative expression like this is healing. Some people painting, some people creating songs, some people write like you, some people do other things, gardening, whatever. This is also part of the process. And and I'm happy that you are doing it. Because you show up for so many people, right? And I have a vested interest to make sure you're okay. This is my thing. So you can keep on going with your colleagues forward. What is the role of intuition in your life over the past 10 years? Intuition as a right tool to go through this uncertainty. Is connected to uncertainty, right? How do you know it's going to be okay? How do you know who you can trust and not? How do you know that? Especially because you were so young when you experienced this.
I have a friend, an Indonesian friend, and he was telling me a few days ago that, come on, Ali, socialize, talk to them. They are friends of mine, um, and that hit me. And I felt that I didn't have any response to him. Yeah, that was my bad when I was not socializing enough, and I was not maybe at that time ready to kind of react and be close to people I met for once suddenly. But they were very nice people as well, of course. Um, I think that's coming from somewhere. I was thinking and reflecting
Mhm.
on that um, I think I'm an open person, and especially when it comes to talking and to exchanging ideas and words with different people, I'm good. I don't have much of language barrier or a lot of those lack of confidence or many things that socializing with people need. But I think this is something very much rooted back to what the experiences that we have talked about. And that might be something very much in my childhood coming from me, from my hometown, from my country situation, where we have always been under oppression of racism, of discrimination, of many things because of. I can talk about Taliban. Taliban are very much popular for what they do. They are against a lot of things. But we have seen it from our fellow citizens, part of the discrimination and racism. We could not have the freedom to practice our religion freely. And this all put pressure. And that pressure reflected into the families and close friends of ours that we have always been warning that do not trust anyone or do not get close suddenly to people because it's not safe. And it came all the way to me when minutes ago when I was saying and my sentence, I remember that I said the people in charge of regulations were warning us not to make connection and friendship with local Indonesians. And that is where we were forced and pushed down not to make connection. And that took us took it from us, from me, the feeling of it's safe to trust people unless I get very much into someone that I know that this is really safe, and then now it's time to trust. And I think this is a very big problem. It's going to be with me or people with such experiences. The other parts that usually is very difficult is also part of how we find ourselves fit, placed, and belong to a specific group, to a specific circle, to a specific community, to a specific society, to the parts that we have been part of it, but we still feel that I don't belong. That is something part of all the effects of the experiences that I have been through. But I think the pure passion and the pure sense of attachment to the source of all these things come from of my identity and my lived experience and my self-understanding, or the intuitions of knowing it and caring and doing something that I'm able to. We haven't much talked in this episode, but of course we can talk that when it comes to initiation of such a thing, be it a classroom, be it a friendship, be it a circle of support, be it direct support, mentoring support, or whatever else that can help me or me being helping others, needs the right intuition. And sometimes I feel this is so much lacking within all the efforts that we put into it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I can see the feeling that I don't belong could actually block intuition to help you, right? Because it's connected. And it's connected to, if you don't feel like, because intuition is very much connected to the voice from a deep part of who you are, who has insights or wisdoms into things that our mind cannot process usually, and particularly usually when people go through a very difficult or very intense experience, suddenly their intuition just open because there is no way to understand anymore what's happening. And so it has to open another inbuilt tools that human has, that everybody has, every being has. And but I can see that the feeling of very deep-rooted emotions, fear or shame or anything that come from the belief that I don't belong, because I am made to believe that I don't belong, because this is how I have been treated, regardless where I'm at, right? This could block, certainly could impact the intuition. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. So when I say the word compassion, Ali, what comes to mind?
Mm. I think I have to repeat what I have said in another podcast. I have been talking in this part. What I have said there was I have seen the bright side of life and the dark side of life. And when it is about compassion, it goes to the bright side of life. I've seen it, I've felt it at a moment where everything was dark. And this was the most touching part. That it didn't come for a reason. It didn't come for we know that, oh, it's a good place and it exists. No, it came at a time that was so much needed, but not much expected, because the environment was not ready for it. So compassion exists within the heart of people who believe it, and they practice it and don't expect anything in return, or without considering of any specific reason for that. We see it a lot. People do it for a reason. People are compassionate to other people, to the situation, to the things, to the animals, for the reasons that are meaningful for them. But I've seen people being compassionate and it was pure and it was honest way of doing it, and it was felt. Yeah.
Do you think it's part of human nature? If human is allowed to be human?
You said the part.
So it is when it is. So let me summarize. Let me clarify. So you feel like it is when human is allowed to be human.
Exactly.
Yeah. I share that. So would you read us a poem?
I'm going to read a poem that I've written it when I was in detention, with the feeling and emotion of what I have been experiencing, and all the stories, of course. I've said it here, part of it previously. So the title of the poem is I Do Not Belong Here. I do not belong here in the vast diverse land, among people of honors and chance, smiles on their faces, hope in their eyes, peaceful, happy and sober, chilling out, cheering up forever. For they belong here, but not me. I do not belong here in the vast blue water among the roaring waves of high sea, stretched between the Indian and the Pacific, surrounding the Nusantara, lost in the unknown islands and the archipelago, waiting and waiting. I do not belong here in the vast forests of greens, among the clans and tribes of natives, living in harmony and grace, tied to their roots and praising their ancestors' origins. Bogor, Bugis, Bali, to me it all feels the same. no joy, no hope, no sense of belonging, shaking, trembling, and fragile, like a tree with no roots, unsteady and inconsistent, unable to withstand the blows. I do not belong here in the erupting highlands of volcanoes, among the beauty of scenery and nature, all elements of nature beautifying east to west, with the colors of green, blue, gray. Does this nature lack something for me? Something that helps me feel it, the connection, the feeling, a sense of belonging. This nature is calm, clear, and charming. Birds singing, bats dancing, souls healing. Yet not for me, only for you. For you belong here, but not me.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you. Yeah.
What is your hope for the future? For your future?
Now, I really hope, personally, for me myself, going all through all of this, I hope I can see myself and my friends and people like me, people with the same experience as me, to be able to live and to be able to be allowed to live. It's that simple, and it's that we talked about it, because that letting people live is going to bring possibilities, is letting people to to find themselves and to see what they can do for this life given to them by their creator, not by these people.
Yes.
That's what I hope. I hope if each and every experience that I have gone through, and the pains that I'm carrying with me, become and transform to tools uh, that I can use them uh, in a different battlefield. Because this life is all full of battles within ourselves, within the situations that we are put in. And I think this should be something that I can make use of. And I'm sure if people like me have been put into such hardships, they have gained a lot to carry with them and to use them in a way that when there was a time that I was waiting to see a bit of good behavior and support from someone, so I can be that person in any future that I can. And I really hope for that. And to the bigger population of oppressed people, people running from persecution and war, people looking for safety, they all find it calm and peaceful wherever they live, even if they are in situations that they don't deserve to be. But still, I hope they can feel calm and peaceful and try to fight with the hardships that they are dealing with in their life.
Yeah. Beautiful. What would you like the listeners to take away from this sharing?
What I just want people is to think about what we talked about. So I don't want people to be like very sympathetic to the issue of the talk. either about Hazaras in Afghanistan, either about refugees in Indonesia or in the world or whatever. But I want people to find empathy and understanding that there are things like this happening and exist, and it's not very far. It might be sometimes it might be sometimes right next to my door, might be sometimes in my neighborhood, it might be sometimes in my community, in my city and bigger society. So wherever we live, we always see such things in different forms, in different situations. So please think about, and on the other part, if I want people to do something, is reach out so we can talk more. I'm sure we can make connections through this. So I'm very much open to any connection that comes through this. The first thing is we talk. I have a lot to talk about. I have a lot of stories, and I have a lot of potential, talented, good friends to introduce as well. And then I think out of all these connections that I talked at the start of the episode, these connections can bring a lot of other beautiful things. And we have, of course, very good programs that we are in so much need of support and volunteers and good wishes, good words that we can receive from you. So I want to ask that my email address to be somewhere around.
Of course. I
So
was about to
people,
say, yes,
yeah,
I
so
will
people,
provide that.
yeah, people reach out to my inbox, and I will be very soon responding and calling and talking and chatting. And I want these connections to grow because I believe these connections make beautiful things happen.
Yeah, lovely. And on that note,
you.
Ali, thank you so much for opening up your world, opening up your heart in this conversation. I invite everybody who listened, who felt connected to this, to respond to the invitation to connect if this is what you wish. And from Indonesia and Zurich, Ali and I would like to thank you all for joining us in this conversation, and hope to see you all again soon. In the meantime, please like this episode, share this episode, and also subscribe to the channel, and take good care of yourself. Goodbye.
Bye.